You're listening to Pilgrims Grey Chronicles, top 3 stories of the week. The world's gone strange, but we love a good peek. From shadows deep to the global stage, we bring the truth from age to age. With harmony bold and a skeptical tone, we dig up the news they don't want known. So stoke the fire and have a seat. This week's top 3 can't be beat. Pilgrims Grey Chronicles.
Well, the lantern is lit, and the indoor creaks open, and the wind howls through a world unraveling at the seams. Welcome, traveler, to another Friday night at the Watchtower, where we don't just read the headlines, we decode, decipher, and discuss them. This is Pilgrims Grey Chronicles. Robert Clark, your host, and tonight we gather not as spectators, but as seekers. The veil is thin once again, and behind it, smoke that wasn't just smoke. A fallen king of culture dragged before the court of public theater, and the distant echoes of an ancient covenant reawakened, disguised in the language of peace, but forged in the fires of war. These are not just the top 3 stories of the week that I have picked. They are prophetic signals whispered through symbols, wrapped in narrative, and broadcast to a world too distracted to notice, but you're still watching. So pour the drink, silence the noise, and listen closely, because the world doesn't end with a bang or a siren. It ends when truth becomes stranger than fiction and no one dares to ask the right questions. But we will. And we begin now. Thank you, singers. Thank you. Thank you. Boom. Thanks. Again, hello everybody. Our top 3 stories. The first one, I hesitated to do because, well, for a number of different reasons, but I decided to go ahead and do it anyway because I still find it highly strange, and that is the Alabama radar anomaly. It's very close to home, and right around where my older brother works. And so we have the smoke, silence, and maybe something else, right? So on June 26th, a strange circular radar bloom, if you had not heard this, appeared over central Alabama, visible on civilian weather maps for about 20 minutes. It coincided with a giant black plume of smoke rising from Redstone Arsenal, a military base with ties to missile programs, chemical weapons, and some of the deepest corners of black-budget aerospace tech. They even get NASA money. So the official story we all got was that it was just a routine controlled burn, right? And that's kind of why I hesitated to even do the story, because that's all anybody is going to immediately think is, or comment is, it was an announced controlled burn. Why are you making a big deal of this? It's just a simple thing, blah, blah, blah. But the reality of it is there was little to no public warning, no FAA alerts, and a radar pattern unlike anything meteorological. It was very odd. And some of what's odd about it is the timing match. Like, the radar anomaly exactly matched the smoke event. It shouldn't have showed up on radar. Do you not find that strange? And then the instant disappearance. The radar bloom completely vanished as it started going viral. I mean, people picked up on it. There are literally websites or social media, YouTube and Rumble, and different people who do nothing but monitor radar and flights and so on. I mean, I pay attention to some of these just for these kinds of anomalies, and kaboom, here's one. In the location history, Redstone's roots run deep, right? From Operation Paperclip's Nazi scientists to housing classified missile disposal programs. And theories abound, right? I mean, I've heard everything so far. Chaff, cloaking field test, directed energy experiment, something came in or something got out. Who knows, right? And so you might be asking to yourself, why no warning if it was scheduled, right? Well, because scheduled was the post-event justification. There were no FAA notices, no public safety alerts, or environmental notices before the burn. And that's not normal for an explosive disposal at a major military site surrounded by a civilian population. So it's just kind of odd. It sounds like, what's the best way to put this? Basically somebody coming up with a decent explanation on the spot. And then you would want to know, can chaff cause that kind of circular radar return? Well, not typically in the kind of pattern that everybody was witnessing. Chaff disperses irregularly and usually drifts or streaks across radar. And this was a perfect bloom, suspiciously circular and evenly faded, suggesting some kind of field, not debris. Literally, the first thing I thought was it was like some sort of energy was going on, or I thought of it. It seems like everybody is focused on portals and other dimensions and so on lately. So one of my first thoughts was, what if that's what happened? Maybe what we're putting in the skies is to facilitate it. Maybe something is missing in the atmosphere from the pre-flood world. And maybe that's what's really going on, and why they're putting it in the atmosphere is because we know, those of us who are Christian, we believe that God has baked into our nature or our environment some sort of restrainer of lawlessness, both spiritual through the Holy Spirit and maybe even physical through making it very difficult for these beings to come in and out just whenever they want. And maybe working alongside humans with permission, which they have to have, seemingly. That's how it appears anyway. I mean, even when going to harass Job in the Old Testament, the adversary still had to go to the Lord of Spirits, Yahweh, and ask his permission after berating and challenging God to his face. So then you would want to know, could this be tied to deep state technology or experimental energy systems? And I think that's very possible. Redstone Arsenal is a legacy site for Operation Paperclip. It's been tied to missile development, space warfare systems, and unconventional disposal of exotic materials. And many believe this was an EW field test, possibly for cloaking, radar spoofing, or even portaling technology, whatever that means to the folks inside the veil. But I think they're facilitating the re-entry of these beings into our world. And I think at some point they succeed, which is why Revelation talks about these creatures or beings being unleashed on the world, from the key to the bottomless pit being opened somehow, possibly by us, right? So I don't know. Strange things are afoot there, and so I guess I decided to just go ahead and, talk about it anyway, right? So story 2, Diddy's Dominion, the trial, the tapes, and the timing. So I don't know if anybody else is paying attention to this. I kind of am, because I want there to be some level of accountability for the kind of disgusting, vile pedophilia and perversion that went on all around this, and that is still going on, I'm sure. But I want it stopped. I would like to see it stopped. And for those involved in it, I'd like to see them pay and basically some accountability. Because isn't that what's missing from so many things in government and in Hollywood and in all of this? There just seems to be no accountability. We see the court stuff, we see this, that, and the other thing. But do they ever really have any accountability? Ever? Like, even when they say they're being held accountable or whatever, I just sometimes wonder if they're just not being whisked away to some paradise island where they can just kick back and escape everything. You know, I don't see any real accountability going on. But I guess others would disagree. But so in a legal circus that feels more Roman than modern, Sean Diddy Combs wrapped up closing arguments this week in a federal case alleging sex trafficking, drug-fueled coercion, and organized criminal behavior behind the scenes of a celebrity empire. But don't let the tabloids fool you. This isn't about salacious gossip. It's about how celebrity, power, and protection intersect in a world run by hidden hands. Do you remember what we talked about Monday and how this whole group of folks this next Monday, we're going to go into the circle within a circle within a circle, and how, because a lot of people will be, well, how do they keep a conspiracy? Well, because it's a circle within a circle within a circle, and each of the circles as you go up know less and less about what goes on at the very tippy top. They just know to follow orders or they lose their job. And many at the very bottom of the circle, which is much broader, don't even know what's going on. They just are a pool of people who, once they begin to show certain sociopathic tendencies, get selected by the people at the top to learn more and go higher and higher up those circles. And all the while swearing new and ever-increasing oaths of secrecy. But anyway, they help each other out, right? They all know each other, they know what signs to give, and they protect each other in courts. Not you. They don't care about you. They protect their brotherhood of fellow oath keepers. Don't break the oath, right? Keep the secrecy. And so, and the ones who don't usually wind up offed, don't they? I think of that Cappy fellow who made the videos that allegedly threw himself off a bridge, right? Sure he did. So, some key developments. Closing arguments delivered Friday, June 28th. Prosecutors labeled him a kingpin running an enterprise of fear and forced compliance. Arson and kidnapping charges were dropped mid-trial, raising red flags about deal-making or protection. Probably protection. And then graphic freak-off footage was shown to jurors, turning the courtroom into a ritual hall of public shame. And so under the surface, many point to this trial as a controlled takedown, removing a pawn who knew too much or refusing to play ball. And some have drawn parallels between this and other high-profile fall guys like Epstein, Weinstein, and even Kanye's public meltdown. So the deeper layer is a potential shift in elite handlers, where older black male networks are being swapped for newer ones in some level of AI-driven system of control. So, you might wonder, was Diddy part of something bigger, and why now? Yeah, I mean, of course, he's not acting alone. These elite circles rely on loyalty, secrets, and mutual protection. The fact that he's being hung out to dry now suggests a power shift, and he may have stepped out of bounds, or he's just a fall guy as they phase out older handlers. Either way, his time seems to be up. So why drop the key charges if the evidence was that strong? Well, this is how deals get made behind the curtain, right? Drop the most explosive charges to preserve the image of justice while shielding the system itself from exposure. The goal is control, not full accountability. This is why none of these people will ever fully be held accountable. Never. So if you're hoping for that, know that until they face the Lord of Hosts in this world, they will not pay the price they ought to. Will they in the next one? Yes. The Lord has promised that no sin will go unaccounted. You either have them covered by the blood of Christ now in a loving relationship with God, recognizing Jesus as Lord, or you get to face your judge in heaven, and maybe you don't wind up in his presence forever. So is this trial exposing elite rituals or sanitizing them? I would say a little of both. We're getting just enough detail to feed the public a morality tale, but none of the real rot at the core of the industry is being revealed. The freak-off footage isn't just depravity, it's ritual humiliation in a system of control through consent. You can't expose Babylon by letting it write the script. It kind of reminds me of the disappointing movie where they were going to, expose child sex trafficking, and it was the brother and sister. And I thought they were going to go into it so much more, but it almost honestly seemed like a controlled opposition movie where it was almost like it was all downplayed and they weren't showing the level of what's really going on. Like they make it sound like, oh, let's just, these older ones will groom. Look, and I'm not saying that what happened in that movie, I can't think of the title of it, but the guy that played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ, Jim Caviezel. But I guess my disappointment is it should have been so much more exposed, and it wasn't. And that's how the controlled opposition works, right? They know they're caught. They know the info is going to come out. So they're willing to admit some, but not all of it. When you look at the things like that Franklin scandal from Nebraska that happened years ago, decades ago, you have to know that our government is involved in the trafficking. Surely you know this by now. If you don't, go look up the Franklin scandal. Maybe we'll cover it at some point. But it seems like we definitely have a corrupt government that is involved in the trafficking of children for sex. And not just within our country, but globally, and amongst mostly the leaders and people who have a great deal of wealth, money, and so on. But they will all be held accountable. And so story 3, the Abraham Accords reloaded, the war that opened the door. In the aftermath of the brief but intense Iran-Israel clash this month, which, it could fire up again. I don't know, but it seems pretty much to have died down to some degree. Well, something quietly clicked into place. If you were paying attention, on June 26th, Netanyahu declared victory not just in battle, but in diplomacy, saying the war created a quote-unquote new opportunity to do what? To expand the Abraham Accords into Saudi Arabia, Syria, and beyond. So behind the curtain shifts, we have Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and Jordan secretly allowed overflights and shared intel during Iran's missile volley, a move suggesting covert military alignment with Israel. And then Trump and Qatari officials negotiated a ceasefire between Iran, Israel, and the U.S. earlier this week. But it wasn't just about peace, it was leverage. And now with Gaza pacified and Iran momentarily quieted, the path is being laid for a new Middle East order, one where old enemies align for profit, control, and prophecy. And it sure seems to me like Gaza is currently being set up to test a mark-based, like a test run for not being able to buy, sell, or trade without a mark. The whole 15-minute city thing, a test run for what we're expecting in the future, right? Under the false Messiah, the Antichrist. And so some big picture implications here. The Abraham Accords, once seen as merely symbolic, are morphing into a pan-Gulf military and economic pact, possibly including Saudi Arabia and even Syria. We have energy markets shifted overnight after the strikes, indicating that OPEC pricing is being used as a tool of diplomacy. And this isn't just about oil, borders, or missiles. It's about who writes the next chapter of Middle East prophecy, right? And who gets to sit at that final table. And will it be a 7-year treaty? And if things go strangely, will it involve the building of a temple for the Jews? So is Saudi Arabia about to fully normalize with Israel? Well, they already have, right? Unofficially, it seems like. I mean, Saudi airspace was used to intercept Iranian missiles. Intelligence was shared. The only thing missing is the public handshake. And that will come once the optics can be managed properly, right? And so, are these new alliances sincere or just survival moves? Well, they seem to be strategic, not sentimental. Gulf nations fear Iran, want tech deals, and need protection. Israel offers that. But these rulers walk a tightrope between power and their populations, most of whom would revolt over open normalization. Something needs to happen to be able to make that happen, which may not be in play yet, but the foundations for it are well underway and almost complete. So does this shift have prophetic ties to Ezekiel 38 or Daniel 9 or the building of a third temple? Well, I think absolutely. The Abraham Accords are a peace covenant with many, and they look like a step toward the Daniel 9:27 confirmation. Don't they to you? I mean, if the Temple Mount becomes part of the next agreement, we're not just talking about politics. We're entering prophetic fulfillment territory yet again. So, from radar ghost in the south, we'll wrap it up to blackmail kings falling from fame, to new thrones being built on desert sand. The system is showing its gears, and the script they're writing, it's not fiction, it's prophecy, politics, and power, all wrapped in flesh. And so we close out another top 3 for Friday, going into the weekend. Again, please like and share and subscribe and get others to subscribe and help show that we're trying to grow. I would like to hit 100,000 followers on YouTube. We're getting close. We are at 76, maybe 77,000. Spotify is growing also. Not as quickly as I'd like, but it is growing, and so is the Spreaker and Apple. But I would like to see more growth. I'd like to see more outreach. I'd like to see our little community of fellow pilgrims grow even wider. So make sure others know about the show. One way you can do that is by getting merchandise. It's a win-win. It supports the show. You get a beautiful shirt or hat or a handbag or whatever. Go check out the store. You'll see what I mean. It's all very nice stuff. It's a bit pricey, but I offer free shipping, which I may have to change because they're starting to charge an arm and a leg for that. So, get it now before I have to raise shipping prices, which I won't do. I don't want to do, but I can't just give stuff away for free. And, I'm barely making anything, per item anyway. I think we make maybe $2 or $3 per shirt we sell. So it's not like I'm making a killing, but we would like to see and I pretty much use everything I make currently right now to help, promote the show, and spread it far and wide. So with your help, of course, it'll get even bigger and better, and we'll have even more people in our community, other pilgrims walking the road with us and waking people up and helping them to see and to know the same truths that we know. People who just aren't awake to this yet, who maybe their lives currently consist of, hey, what's going to be on Netflix this weekend, and what are we going to watch, and whatever. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, my wife and I do that too, to some degree. Like tonight, we have not seen season 5 yet of The Chosen, so we're kind of watching that right now. I had to break away to do the show, so here I am doing the show. But, some people And we were all there once. Remember when you had no idea? So just prayerfully ask God to show you people that you can introduce to this show or other shows and help wake them up, and then disciple them and help them to understand these things, and help them to, be there when they have the questions. Drop the breadcrumbs, let them follow the breadcrumbs, and when they have the questions, answer them, and invite them to come to the inn, and lift your tankard high, with the rest of us gray pilgrims, and then explain that we go out to the watchtowers and we help warn others, and we're looking out for the coming storm. We want to be aware, and we want our friends, loved ones, and others to be aware. And we are ambassadors here, are we not? Those of us who are Christians are ambassadors left here to do a job because we love God, and we know He loves us, and we were called to be ambassadors, His representatives, to bear His image. So let's do it and go into the weekend and have a great weekend, y'all. Godspeed to you.
The hour grows late, the fires burn low, the watchmen speak of truce below. 3 tales we cast upon the stone, for those who stand but not alone. The towers shake, the shadows crawl, the hidden hand still rules them all, but light endures where hearts remain, unmoved by gold, unmoved by fame. Oh, watchers gray with eyes like flame, we mark the path, we name the name. Let Friday fall, let silence keep. We guard the truth while others sleep. The week is sealed, the scroll is tied, the tales of kings, of blood, of pride, yet still we know the tale's not done. The morning comes, but not the sun. We guard the truth while